filmmaker, board member, producer, organizer, extraordinaire. Ladies and gentlemen, let's just hear it for our cousin, for our sister, for our everything, our wife, Brother Smith. If I leave him out, I'm going to have to hear it. Amen. Just the one who works diligently to make all of these things happen. Let's hear it for my cousin, Sharon Goodrich Smith. Come on up.
Wow. Good evening, family and friends. Welcome to our 160th Founders Day celebration. Today, 160 years after our ancestors left Barbados and arrived in Liberia, we celebrate them on 2 continents. Earlier today, family, friends, and the presidents of Liberia and Barbados celebrated a special anniversary in our hometown of Crozierville in Liberia. Tonight, we, the descendants, with our family, our friends, our supporters, also come together to remember and celebrate this special occasion. Without your presence, this evening would not have been possible. Tonight, this is an evening that goes beyond celebration. Tonight, we're here for more than just a gala. Tonight, we celebrate our heritage. Tonight, we celebrate legacy. Tonight, we're going to celebrate what united us, and most importantly, we celebrate community and giving back to our community in Liberia. Tonight, we're preserving our rich history, which is a priceless gift for future generations. And let us not forget, tonight we're going to party. Okay. Last year I signed a contract with this hotel for 150 guests. And I was like, would I get 150 to come to this? Tonight we double that number and then some. Thank you. So I'm overwhelmed by your support, and I want to thank everyone for coming out this evening. I'm not talking long. We're going to get moving with the next segment of the program, and I'll turn it over to our MCs wherever they are.
That's just all these Delaware people just came to take over Maryland tonight. But speaking of that, they even brought a VIP person along with them. So where's my young cousin, Kimmy? Kimmy, why don't you come on up here? And Kimmy's got a little bit of a responsibility to carry out now.
So we have a very special guest tonight. It is an honor to call up to the podium someone who exemplifies a lot of the ideals that we are honoring tonight. A very down-to-earth person, someone who works for the people with honesty and integrity. It's an honor to welcome to the podium the Governor of the State of Delaware, Honorable Meyer. Please let's stand and give him a standing ovation as he comes to the podium. You may have your seats. The first time that I saw the governor, at that time he was running his campaign. He might not remember this, but it was at the Bethel AME Church. There were students who had come from Africa, and he had attended that program. And I remember looking in the back and seeing him, and there was this sense of the passion for Africa. In fact, early on in his career, he had started something called Echo Sandals that basically worked to help create jobs on the continent for young people. He's continued in Delaware, the city of Newcastle, and then really made a lot of transformation there, and recently got elected as governor, where one of the things that I was happy to hear was that his very first act, or one of his very first acts as governor, was to pass Executive Order number 1, which focused on apprenticeships for young people in the state of Delaware. So it is an honor. I will now turn over to Shereen Goodrich Smith, who will make a few remarks and present this award to the governor.
Your business stuff.
So, Governor, I want to tell you this. I selected this for you because we have the globe on it with, of course, the map of Africa, and I can guarantee you, you ever seen a governor who speaks an African language? Yep, he speaks Swahili. So, we're not just doing this because he's a politician. We're not just doing this because we just wanted a governor here or some celebrity. He believes in Africa. He went there before he became governor. He's been there, he knows our people, he supports them, and he didn't go there with a check to write a check and give them money to go and do something. He went there and created jobs. And he created, you know, in Africa, you give one person job, you feeding 20, 30 families. So that's why it means so much to us that he came all the way from Delaware here. So I can tell you, he's somebody who, we have people from the Panache International Club who are at this table. All of these women at this table, they were on the ground working for you. And it wasn't just Liberians. The people from Cameroon, Uganda, they were there making those calls, and we will work for you because you're a good man and you're doing good things, not just in Liberia, or not just in Delaware, but all over the world. So that's why we present you this award.
Good evening. Good evening. Howdy, buddy. What is Sierra Leone here? How about Zenu? Any Kenyans? Oliotia? Uganda? I was talking to Chris, Shereen's husband, as I was sitting there. I know I have a lot of friends from Sierra Leone. I know you greet them with Ali Buddy. I said, how do you greet Liberians? He said, you greet them with, hello, how are you? It's good to see everyone tonight. Anybody here from Delaware? So you guys heard of the Wilmington Blue Rocks? Wilmington Blue Rocks are our minor league baseball team. Tonight, I threw out the first pitch at the Blue Rocks game. And there were about 500 people there. And so I turned to the manager after I threw out the first pitch. I said, not a very big crowd tonight. He said, yeah, half of Delaware is in Reston, Virginia tonight. So it's good to see everyone. It's truly an honor to be here with you as Delaware's 76th governor. It's kind of strange for all of you to honor me. There are a lot of people here, without whom I likely would not be the governor of Delaware. I'm not going to tell you my whole story for those who I've never met before, but I'm an outsider. 11 years ago, I was a public school teacher in Wilmington, and I think I've gone faster from being a school teacher to governor than anyone in the history of this country. And I'm just a guy with ideas and likes to put together people to change things, to move this country, and in our case, our state of Delaware forward. And there were a lot of people in this room who worked hard to make that happen. So when my chief of staff, Vanessa Phillips, who's right here, actually the first African-American ever to serve as chief of staff in the state of Delaware. When she told me about tonight in Reston, Virginia, I said, I don't leave the state of Delaware very often, but she told me who was gonna be here, and I knew I had to come here to say to many of you, thank you. It's your groundwork, your hard work, your selfless efforts that help get me to where I am, and it's something I'm reminded of every day that I serve you, and my goal is to make sure we're moving our state forward for you. In my introduction, Kimmy Weeks said that he first saw me at Bethel Church, African Methodist Church in Wilmington, which is not completely true. When I was in 5th grade, I grew up in Delaware. I'm a regular American kid who likes learning languages. And when I was in 5th grade in Delaware, my social studies teacher told me, I still remember, about an amazing mountain on the equator, snow-capped. I thought, amazing, on the equator. As a 5th grader, I knew the equator is so hot. There's a snow-capped mountain called Kilimanjaro, and it is in Kenya. And I thought, when my teacher said that, one day I'm gonna go to Kenya. And so when I was in college, and I had an opportunity to study abroad, it actually was a little bit less expensive for me to go to Kenya than to go to college in the US, believe it or not, for a semester. And just as I was flying into Nairobi, I was talking to the guy seated next to me. He was from Tanzania. And he asked me, why did I choose to go study in Kenya? And I said, well, I wanted to go see this snow-capped mountain on the equator, and it was something I wanted to do at some point in my life. He said, that's fine, but that snow-capped mountain, Kilimanjaro, is in Tanzania, it's not in Kenya. So actually, I went to the wrong country. But when I went to Kenya, and I've never been to Liberia, but I think it's true in many African nations, I was shocked not just by the extent of poverty and really, really poor neighborhoods, but by the inequities, that they were sometimes very close to poor communities. There were people who were very, very wealthy. And at the age of 23, I developed this business idea and got some small funding for it to teach us a small group of young adults, women and men, at that time deeply impacted by AIDS, the AIDS epidemic and HIV, to make sandals, to make footwear and sell them all over the world. And after working there a few years, we'd grown to about 30 employees. We were selling sandals on continents and countries all over the world. We were the first e-commerce business in Kenya. And in the course of growing this business, I met a whole bunch of people doing similar, sometimes much grander things across the African continent. And one of those people was Kimmy Weeks, who 20 years ago, we talked about potentially uniting our enterprises and partnering to do all sorts of amazing things. Well, I ended up departing from the business and launching a political career, but it's so fantastic that we are reunited again. Let me just close with this. We are here tonight to celebrate 346 courageous individuals, probably the great-great-great-grandparents of some people in this room here tonight. And I don't know nearly as much about the journey to Crozierville, to the Barbadian history in Liberia, as many of you do. But I know that at its essence, it's really about one thing, and that's people in search of freedom. It's about people who are liberated and searching for freedom. And I would argue that while the struggle is very different today, the wealth we have is very different. The electricity and the internet and the cell phones is very different. That struggle for freedom today, in many ways, is as serious and as challenging as it was 160 years ago. I was, just 2 weeks ago, I was in DC. My wife and I, we had a little free time, and so we brought our son to the African American History Museum. And on our way out, we just overheard some people talking about what was going on with the African American History Museum. We had no idea that the president had signed an executive order basically going after the African American History Museum. They're starting to take things out of the museum. The head of the museum resigned in protest, and things like the African American History Museum telling the true history of this land, the good, the bad, and the ugly, are being challenged. So people gathering like this is so important, celebrating that history, telling that oral narrative that we heard before, because if we lose that, we are losing that pursuit of freedom that we all share, regardless of the language you speak, regardless of the color of your skin. So thank you so much, all of you, for hosting this tonight. Delawareans, you better get back home soon. I am watching, but thank you so much. Let's continue fighting together, and for those not from Delaware, there is a beacon of hope and freedom in this country, and it is called Delaware. Thank you so much.
Hey, did y'all see his shoes? Hey, let's hear it for the governor of the great state of Delaware, Meyer. I tell you, you gotta be a big woman to get the governor from your state to leave your state to come to another state to talk. I gotta tell you, that's a big woman. Let's hear it for Sharon Goodrich-Smith and the work that she does and continue to do for the people and the history of this great nation called Liberia. For the love of liberty, it's that brought us here.
Ladies and gentlemen.